Donald Trump is in a strong position to win the key swing state of Pennsylvania. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today we have to talk about the 2024 presidential election because Donald Trump's in a strong position to win the key swing state of Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's right. Despite all the dooming surrounding Pennsylvania, Trump is in a very good position to win it. Now, does that mean he's going to win Pennsylvania by 15 points, or I'm saying he's the clear favorite? No. But I would argue, as of now, Donald Trump is the favorite in Pennsylvania. It may not be by 30 points, but I would argue that Trump is right now the favorite in the Commonwealth. Again, that doesn't mean it's by some huge margin, but I would argue, as of now, he is the favorite to win Pennsylvania. Therefore, he's probably the favorite to win the presidency. And there's many reasons for why I believe this. For starters, just look at voter registration. I mean, in the month of August, Republicans gained 21,000 voters. Democrats gained just under 14,000. Yeah, this is Pennsylvania, not a deep red or deep blue state. This is a purple state. It's 50-50. So Republicans gaining 8,000 more voters than Democrats, that's a big deal. Now, I should be clear that when it comes to voter registration in many states, especially Pennsylvania, you have to be careful because it can be misleading. The reason being is there's a bunch of ancestral Democrats in Pennsylvania. What do I mean by this? Well, effectively, there's a bunch of Democrats in deep red counties like Butler, Westmoreland, Washington, the western part of the state in particular, where they've been voting Republican for like 20 years now, but they still register as Democrats. So there's a possibility, and some people have argued this, and I'm not denying this one bit, but there's a good possibility that at least a chunk of these new Republicans, they could just be ancestral Democrats that are finally Republicans, but that doesn't mean they actually changed parties. That doesn't mean they were Biden voters back in 2020, but now they're voting for Harris. There could be some of them like that, some Democrats that realized they effed up and they switched parties. But the ancestral Democrats, they've been voting Republican for like 20 years now, especially in the last 10 years, especially in Western Pennsylvania. So you could argue, well, maybe, just maybe, a chunk of this registration surge is because of ancestral Democrats. And it probably is. I'm not denying that. But funny enough, Axios actually looked into this. They wanted to see, okay, what's happening in Pennsylvania when it comes to voter registration. Now, I should be clear that this is from July. So it is a little bit outdated, but still. The month of July had the assassination attempt that had Biden stepping aside and backing Harris. So theoretically, it should have caught the surge for Democrats when it comes to voter registration, if there was any. Well, you scroll down here and look at that. Republicans gained around 19,000 new voters. These are not people that were Democrats and they flipped parties. No, these are brand new voters. Democrats added only 17,000. Yeah, Republicans with new voters gained 2,000 more new voters than Democrats did in the month of July. Now, in August, it could be a lot closer, especially with the quote-unquote Harris surge. I get that. But this was in July. That's when Democrats had their initial surge in voter registration. Yet Republicans still out-registered Democrats in Pennsylvania with new voters. So it's not just ancestral Democrats. It's part of it. But it's clear that these are not just voters from Westmoreland that have been voting Republican for 30 years, but they're now Republicans. No. There's a good chance that these are just new voters that have registered to vote, and they are becoming Republicans. This is a big deal because if these are new voters and they're actual Republicans, how do you think they're going to vote? Do you think they're going to vote for Kamala Harris? No. I highly doubt someone that became a Republican in the last 2 months is going to vote for Kamala Harris. I doubt that. Why would you do that? Unless you're supporting the Republican Party and Donald Trump. So that's why I believe while this number is more than likely inflated, I still think these are good numbers for the GOP. Just look at November of 2020. Democrats had an advantage of 700,000 voters in Pennsylvania. Yeah, not 70,000, 700,000 voters. Right now, it's only 350,000. In other words, it's been cut in half. Now, I'm not saying that's all because of new voters. Obviously, a bunch of ancestral Democrats, they became Republicans. But when you look at the county-by-county data, you have places like Chester County, Pennsylvania, not a ancestral Democrat area. Hell, it's actually the opposite. This county voted for Romney, for crying out loud. It voted for Biden by just under 20 points. But this county, in recent months, has seen a surge of Republican support. Does that mean it's going to trend 15 points Republican? No. But Chester County is a good example. Even Bucks County, which is a key swing county, Republicans, for the first time, I believe, ever, have gained the advantage here. Is this just a fluke? Is this just, ancestral Democrats in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, Greene County, Washington County? Do you really believe that the voters in Chester County, Pennsylvania are ancestral Democrats? Really? This county voted for Romney just 10 years ago, but now it's a Democrat stronghold. Again, I am not denying that more than likely, a good chunk of these new Republicans, they probably are from Beaver County, Lawrence County, Mercer, ancestral Democrats. I'm not denying that. But even Axios admitted, oh yeah, by the way, Republicans in the month of July, right in the middle of the Harris surge, out-registered Democrats with new voters. Not just Democrats becoming Republicans, no, these are brand new voters that are becoming voters for the first time, whether because they're 18, whether it's because they never voted beforehand, whatever. This is good news for Republicans. It's not just ancestral Democrats, because this means these are actually new voters. These are new supporters for Trump, for the Republican Party. That's why it's good news across the board when it comes to voter registration. Now, some people might argue, well, it's one data point. It's not everything, which I'm not denying. Okay, voter registration can be misleading. Let's look at the polling, which I would argue is actually good news for Trump, but the top line is Harris plus 0.5. And that's why everyone still believes that Harris is the clear favorite in Pennsylvania. It's over for Trump. Well, for starters, if you get rid of one poll, either the Bloomberg poll or the Quinnipiac poll, just one of the two, it would go from Harris plus 0.5 to probably Trump plus 1. Because both of these polls are clear outliers. Look at this. Harris plus 4, Harris plus 3, from two pollsters that are absolute shit and have long histories of overstating Democrat support. You think I'm kidding? Back in 2020, you could go to Quinnipiac's polls out of Pennsylvania. This is an apples-to-apples comparison. They had Biden up by 7, 8, 13, 8 points. Yeah. They didn't have Biden up by 2 or 3. At the same time, they had Biden up by 8 points in August of 2020. This is an apples-to-apples comparison. Now, I know these are different elections, fine. But the fact that Quinnipiac, which, again, vastly overstated Biden's support in 2020, has Harris barely winning, I don't think that's good news for Harris. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible for Harris to win Pennsylvania, but the only polls that have her winning as of now are Bloomberg, which is by Morning Consult, and Quinnipiac. These are two shit pollsters that have long histories of overstating Democrat support. Yet every other pollster like Rasmussen, Insider Advantage, Trafalgar, hell, Emerson has the race tied. Everyone else, Trump plus 1, Trump plus 2. Yet two outliers are causing this Harris lead, in quotation. But fine, let's say these polls are not outliers. Let's say by some miracle, Quinnipiac and Bloomberg, they're right in the average. Okay, even if that's the case, let's just say fine, the consensus was Harris plus 0.5 by some miracle. Even in that scenario, back in 2020, at the same time, back in 2020, August, or I should say early September of 2020, it was Biden +4. They overstated his support by 3 points back then. Even 2016, same thing occurred. September 2nd, 2016, or September 3rd, excuse me, Clinton +6. They were off by 7 points back then. So even if these Bloomberg and Quinnipiac polls are not actually outside the consensus, by some miracle, the RCP average is really Harris +0.5. Not because of two big outliers, but because the polls have a consensus. Fine, let's say that's the case. Even in that scenario, Harris has a much smaller lead in Pennsylvania than Biden did, than Clinton did. That's a fact. Clinton was up by 6. Biden was up by 4. Biden barely won Pennsylvania. Clinton just outright lost it. Now, am I saying there's going to be a 7-point miss in Pennsylvania? No. But even if there's a 1-point miss, a 2-point miss, which is, by the way, much more accurate than 2020, which, again, in 2020, in September of 2020, excuse me, it was Biden +4. If the same error occurs, not even that, just a 2-point miss, not a 3-point miss, that's still a Trump win. So how the hell can you look at these polls and say to yourself, yeah, it's actually good news for Harris? No, it's not. If you're Harris, you want to be up by 2 to 3 points on average, not up by 0.5. Because you are 1 point miss away from losing Pennsylvania, and more than likely, losing the presidency. Now, am I saying it's for sure going to be a polling miss? No. But it's the same polls pulling the same crap that they did back in 2020, back in 2016. You can argue in some circumstances they've gotten worse. We just got to see what happens. Maybe by some miracle, at the end of September, Harris is up by 15 points in Pennsylvania. I guess that's possible. But Harris is up by 0.5, and that's with 2 big outliers. This is not a huge lead for Harris whatsoever. So the more you look at it, the more it becomes apparent that Trump's in a good position here. He may not be the overwhelming favorite. He's not going to win Pennsylvania by 15 points, but I would rather be in Trump's position right now than Harris's. Because if you're Trump, well, a polling miss is kind of expected. Especially with 2 big outliers like Quinnipiac, like Bloomberg, inflating Harris's margin. Now, it could be possible that Quinnipiac and Bloomberg, they're spot on. But based off of their own histories, their own track records, I don't think they're going to be correct. And even if they're off by half of what they were back in 2020, let's just be friendly. Let's be generous and say they've gotten better. Even in that scenario, that's a Trump lead in their own polls. We just got to see what happens. But anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.